friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to talk some more about using your fermentation starter to make bread. Well, I pointed over here, there's no fermentation starter sitting here because they're currently all in the fridge. But this is the start of my fermentation starter bread. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the actual bread making process using this method because I already have a pretty thorough video out on that I'll link to down below. I'm also not going to go into a lot of detail about making and using a fermentation starter. For a more detailed, thorough video, I have another one that I'll link to in the description box. I have several out there because it was one of the very first videos I did on my channel, but I'm linking you to my most recent and most thorough one in the description box. Make sure to look for the word more or show more somewhere down here below the video screen. So you just click on that, it'll open the description box all the way so you can find all the links and any other information I have in there, including my various social media links. So if you've been following me for some length of time, you've known that over the years I've been messing with the fermentation starter that I make myself to use it in bread making. Now, originally when I started making a fermentation starter, it started with learning about a ginger bug and making a ginger bug. But then I realized just through experimentation that I could use anything to make a fermentation starter, and thus I changed the name because I'm not always using ginger, and ginger isn't always easily accessible for me. And that's why I decided to let me try this. Let me try some berries. Let me try some peaches. Let me try some strawberries. Then eventually moved on to trying herbs of various kind, be it dandelion or red clover and more. Dried fruit such as raisins or goji berries or whatever I had on hand. And that is what's so cool about it, is that you can make this starter and you can use it for making mead or wine. And that was great. I was able to do that. I never have to buy any kind of special wine yeast. I just use my starter and it's great. I even have a video on winemaking using the starter I'll link to down below. A little more history is that this fermentation starter, I originally was making it for making mead and wine, and then eventually started experimenting more with it by using it to ferment things instead of doing a salt brine, using the fermentation starter to get things going so I don't have to use up as much salt. And it works great and I love it. And now it's the only way I'll make my kimchi and my other fermented goods, including fermented fruit smoothies and so on. And it's cheap, it's virtually free. So I love it. And so again, I suggest if this is a new concept to you and using something like that for fermenting with, you'd like to learn more, please check out the videos I'll be putting down below. Now today is more an update about the bread and some of the different things I've done since shooting that video. Once I finally mastered the technique and have been playing around with it even more since that video, I want to update you on that and also share with you another person's experience with it, you know, following my video but using her own way, and what worked for her as far as getting a good bread out of that. So the first thing I want to talk about is I have since got to a point where now I do make my breads most of the time of a 50-50 blend of organic unbleached white flour that I get from Azure Standard and the home milled flour from organic grains that I also get from Azure Standard, which is a 50-50 blend of barley and hard white wheat. So I buy those, I blend the two grains together whole, and then when I need to mill them up, I pour that into my grain mill, which is the Country Living grain mill. It's a very pricey one. While I do recommend it because it is high quality and you can hook a motor up to it, you don't always have to do it by hand. There are others out there that cost less, but I'm happy I have mine. It was made right here in my own state. And it really depends on what kind of bread I'm using, the ratio of the whole grain flour to the unbleached white flour that I use. Sometimes it'll change accordingly. It just depends on what I'm making. So some other things since shooting that video I've made is I've done the butter crescent rolls, which I think I did after shooting that video just in time to be able to insert a picture, I think. And so I've done that a few times. Last night I made pizza. It's not actually the first time I've made pizza crust using the fermentation starter. It's the first time I've done it using the fermentation starter with my newer method of working the dough. So my method involves getting it started with flour. So I fill the jar up halfway with my fermentation starter liquid, add some flour, stir it in, and I'll do that for a period of 2, maybe 5 days, depending on when I want to get around to my bread making. Then I pour it in a bowl, add all my stuff, and then I do that early in the morning, so I've got all day to work it, let it rise, work it a little bit more, let it rise, work it a little bit more, let it rise. And so again, I go into more detail about that in the video down below. At any rate, yeah, the pizza turned out great. Probably one of my best pizza crusts I've made. I think it was actually one of my best pizzas I've ever made, and just generally speaking. So it was homemade sauce, homemade crust, and some whatever toppings I happen to have on hand. And what I do now, the easiest thing is I just make, because we don't eat pork, so I just get I pull out some ground beef, I brown it up, I add some seasonings to give it an Italian flavor, such as fennel, rosemary, oregano, and basil, plus salt and garlic and a little onion, and I just brown that, and that's what I sprinkle on top of the pizza. And I think it's great, it's simple, and I don't have to worry about, I know exactly what's in it. I don't have to worry about any pork products sneakily being put in there. So anyway, some other things I've done, as like with the pizza, let's come back to the pizza, I forgot to say, I made breadsticks. So whenever I make a pizza, usually I've got plenty of dough, so I use the excess dough to just turn that into breadsticks and bake those as well. The other thing I've done that just turned out amazingly well a couple times now are the cinnamon rolls. So the cinnamon rolls I made in both occasions, because it turned out so good the first time I wanted to do it again, were apple cinnamon rolls. So I used the powdered apples from my own trees that I dehydrated up, powdered up, and then I mix them into the cinnamon mixture that goes in the middle of the cinnamon roll. For the icing, what I did was I used the apple peel powder in that. Mix that in and added vanilla instead of adding cinnamon. So man, those turned out so good using my fermentation starter bread and then all the good stuff that I did there. They were soft and wonderful. And so anyway, and also, by the way, I'm going to link to my Substack. I need to get back into doing more Substack stuff. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting about it, but I do have a couple of really great posts there. And so I have a Substack where I share some different ideas for cinnamon rolls, because I spent a month or so just making up recipes for cinnamon rolls. Well, they weren't all cinnamon rolls because they didn't all have cinnamon in them, and just tried some various different things, including pumpkin or chocolate and peanut butter and so on. And so if you'd like some ideas and kind of the basic ratios I used and how I put it together, you can check out that Substack link I'll be putting in the description box down below, which also includes photos, and I might even have links to that, like to my basic yeast bread recipe, just using a dry yeast. And that was before I perfected my fermentation starter method for making the bread, which that's all I've been using. I haven't used dried yeast now in months, because I love this so much. Now, let me share with you the lady that sent me an email. What she did was, or what she does is she makes the bread. She takes the starter, mixes everything in there straight from wherever she stores her starter. And then she adds her flour, all her ingredients, and then just makes up her dough like you would if you're using dry yeast. However, she actually allows it to rise for 3 days. She gives it a full 3 days to rise. And she likes that method better. It works better for her. And I think that's great. Some people, and one of the reasons I wanted to share that with people is they might find that a more simple method to go by to get a good result. But that's the thing with this, is it seems like no matter how you look at it, it's going to take about 3 days to get really good results. I've tried doing it in one in the past and never could get great results, but that's why I started extending it out and using a longer rise time and a longer time for preparing it. So by me starting it like this, the reason this works better for me than the method she uses is that sometimes things come up, or I change my mind and decide, oh, I don't want to make bread this day. I want to make it tomorrow instead, or 2 days from now, because whatever came up, or whatever reason I changed my mind is. So if that happens, I can either if I realize it's going to take me several days, just stick it into the fridge and just leave it alone. I don't have to worry about it. It'll be fine for a few days in there, just left alone. Or I can just keep feeding it for an extra day or two and stirring that in so it doesn't get too sour. Because I personally don't really care for it when it starts taking on a sour taste. Sometimes that's okay, but if you keep feeding it, it's going to prevent that from happening. So that makes it better for my schedule than making the dough up and then allowing it to rise for 3 days. Now maybe you could do something similar, stick the dough in the fridge. And so maybe that will work for some people if you have something unexpected come up. But anyway, for me, this method has been working great. And so what I'm also hoping is those who have started by following my videos doing this, I know there was another lady, Linda, says she does hers a little bit different yet. She didn't describe how she does it, but I hope she's watching this and she can share if she would like in the comments down below. And anyone else who's tried using the fermentation starter for making their yeast breads of any kind, share with us the kinds of breads you've made. You know, is it cinnamon rolls, just regular loaf bread, dinner rolls? I've done that too. Share with us in comments down below, and your method of giving it that rise time. Do you prefer doing it this way? Do you prefer doing it just making it up, giving it a few days to rise? What method works best for you, so other people can kind of read there and find, okay, what's going to fit best into my lifestyle, my schedule, etc., and just be simpler all the way around. I actually find this method very simple, very, very simple. Even if it does take longer, I just always plan ahead. So by doing this, even if I'm kind of thinking now that I started this, I'm probably not going to make bread right away. So I'll probably just stick this in the fridge. I'm going to go ahead and feed it today because I started it yesterday. And then I'm just going to stick it in the fridge, and I'll pull it out when I get closer to that time that I think I'm going to need it, you know, at least a day ahead. And then if something else comes up, I can stick it back in the fridge. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to check out the other videos I have linked in the description box down below, and to read the comments that I'm sure many of my great followers will put down there so you can learn even more. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.